Hey, welcome back to Snatches and Scotch. This is episode number 7, and I'm your host, Sylvie Bona. This episode, we're going to look at how to get good at CrossFit. Tough question because there's so much involved in CrossFit, so I'm going to go over 5 things and then throw in the last little bit of a bonus as to what you can do to get good at CrossFit. All right. I get questions like this all the time from new people. What should I focus on? What should I do? And people who tend to get into CrossFit basically love what they're doing, and they're very, very competitive, and they want to do very, very well really quickly. And I know personally I have a little bit of ADD, I guess. I've always had it my whole life growing up. Never made excuses for it. Didn't even know that ADD existed until I was an adult. I was like, oh shit, that's what I had. But when we do CrossFit, we want to do everything all the time, and we want to be constantly varied. And sometimes that can hurt new people a tiny bit. I mean, it's nice to dab into everything and nice to try and do everything, but sometimes you need to kind of take a step back and have some sort of a plan as to what you want to do, what's realistic, where do you want to get to. All right. So when I started CrossFit, I could do 3 to 5 strict pull-ups. I was 220 pounds. I can lift quite a bit. Not as much as I wasn't as strong as I thought I was. But handstand push-ups, muscle ups, all that stuff just wasn't going to happen for me. It got to the point where I was like trying to do stuff, and I was like, this is never, ever going to happen. I am never going to be able to do a muscle up. So I took a step back and I devised a game plan. I stuck with it. It was tough because, I had to stick with it and do it all the time. But then eventually I succeeded, and I got, pretty proficient at CrossFit in a short amount of time. Because I focused on my weaknesses, and I mean, this is not news. So the first thing, my little show notes here, I like to keep it old school, write down a piece of paper. The first thing you want to do, in my opinion, is get strong as shit. Okay, so get as strong as you possibly can. Without a base of strength, without any kind of strength base, you're not going to be very good at CrossFit. I mean, you'll be good at Metcons, and you'll be good at little things little workouts, like body weight workouts and so on. But to be a complete CrossFitter, you really need to get strong. That should be your number one focus. I don't care what anyone says. I like to favor strength. As I have a strength bias for all my clients in my gym, and they need to get strong. A couple of things that strength does. First thing it does, it prepares you for all those crazy body weight stuff you're gonna do, and all the kips and all those connective tissues and stuff like that. So when people think about getting strong, they think, "Oh, I need to lift heavy barbells." Yeah, you do, but you also need to be able to do some pretty controlled body weight movements. I like to do a lot of tempo rows. Today, my guys did a bunch of tempo push-ups and ring rows. Like to do a lot of progression stuff for the gymnastics with a lot of control, and that in itself is strength. So you can use body weight movements for strength. You can use weighted movements. So strength is not limited to the Olympic lifts and the power lifts. It's pretty broad. Okay, so develop a strength base. Now, how do you develop a strength base when there's so much to do in CrossFit? Always do strength. For the most part, if you're on a good program, you're going to have some kind of a strength session at the beginning of your workout. The problem with having strength at the beginning of your workout is that you need to be doing extra work outside of CrossFit class. For the most part, if you need to get strong fast, which is kind of an oxymoron, you don't generally get strong fast. New people do, but for the most part, you don't get strong all that fast. If you have a lot of strength programmed in your workouts, that's fine. But what you need to focus on is strength on a daily basis. So cycling through barbell strength, cycling through technique work, that also has a lot to do with proficiency, but we'll touch on that later, and also a lot of body weight strength stuff. So for example, what I used to do at the beginning of every workout, I used to do my warm up real quick, and I used to do like 5 to 10 rounds of 6 to 10 muscle up progressions, 6 to 10 strict handstand push-ups, with an elevated surface, and then work my way down from there. Or I'll do some kind of an assistance work at the end of my workouts to complement my weakness. So ring rows, lat engagement on the pull-up bar, stuff like that. So I mean, you get pretty creative with it, and there's a lot of stuff you can work on. The only thing is, when you want to get strong, you do need progressions, and you do need to periodize a little bit. So you can do a little bit this week, you can do a tiny bit more next week, a bit more the third week, maybe test in the fourth week, or keep on going. The fifth week, maybe dial it down a bit, recover, and then 6th week, bring it up a notch, maybe a bit more than week number 2 or so. So you got to play around with that and see what's right for you. So strength is number 1. Now, why is strength so important? Think of doing, today we did Isabel. So think of doing 30 snatches for time at 135. Now, if your snatch is, 150, you shouldn't be doing Isabel RX as a dude. But let's say your snatch is like 185, okay? And you're snatching 135 30 times. That is a shitty weight to work with for 30 reps. 30 reps at 135, 185, that's what, like 75% maybe? Just kind of throwing that number out. Seems like about right. 75% or 70% of your 1 rep max for 30 reps. Not a good time. If you're snatching 250, that's a whole different ballgame. And Grace should be a lot easier. I mean, it should if you're crossfitting. If you're weightlifting and you're snatching 250, then you're probably going to hate Grace. Isabel. So you want to have enough absolute strength, okay, raw strength, so that when you do a workout, you're working at a lower percentage of your max. If you can combine good strength with good conditioning, then every workout you're doing, you're working a little less than the next guy beside you, if that makes any sense. And if you're working less, then you should be able to go harder and faster. If you're just trying to do, here's a common mistake I see all the time. People who are new to CrossFit, they'll do they'll do a workout like a hero WOD, and something that calls for like some heavier weight, and they'll try to RX that hero WOD, and they'll try their hardest to lift that weight and get to the workout as much as they can. And there's no way that they're meeting the required stimulus for that workout, which means they're not really working at a pace that the workout was intended for someone to work at. And they end up using a really heavy weight because they feel like, hey, you know what? If I RX this bitch, I'm going to get strong as shit. Wrong approach. So don't try to get strong during Metcons, and don't try to like RX Metcons because you'll get stronger. Focus on your strength independently, and then bring that new strength and crush Metcons after. Okay, I'm a firm believer in that. So even myself, I could pretty much do any workout RX, and like any workout that has weight in it. There's no reason why I can't do it RX. But if I have an off day and I know that I'm not feeling too well, I know what, and I understand what the workout is made for. So if the workout is asking me to move my ass real quick, but I'm having an off day, I'm still gonna get a good workout in. I'm gonna dial down the weight and still have a really good Metcon, good WOD with the weight that I'm dialing down. If that makes any sense. So I'll intentionally not RX workouts if I have like a little tweaked wrist or whatever. But more specifically, if I'm not feeling too good, I won't RX workouts because I still want to have the stimulus the workout was intended to create. Okay, so I'm not going to get strong during the Metcon. I'm going to get strong by working on my strength and then bring that strength to the Metcon. Okay. Welcome back to Snatches and Scotch. This is our part 2 of our multi-part series of the functional dumbbell. In this episode, we're going to focus on Olympic lifting with the use of dumbbells. All right. I love Olympic weightlifting; it's one of my favorite things to do. But sometimes I think of beating on you, and doing it with a dumbbell is kind of refreshing. And it's a great way to do it with athletes as well as beginners. Okay. It's a lot less technical, and it's not as heavy for the most part. So you're going to be able to do a lot. You're going to get a lot of benefits from using dumbbells by doing Olympic lifts with athletes, because they'll reap the benefits of moving weight explosively and reducing risk of injury. And sometimes a lot of athletes, when people don't have time to focus on technique, you need to get in, get the work done, and get out. Okay. So I'm going to go over the clean, the hang clean, clean jerk, the snatch, single arm snatch, hang snatch. It's a mouthful. Alright? So the first thing is the clean. I'm going to pick up the dumbbells, and I'm going to start off nice and tall, shoulders down and back. Okay, core brace, neutral spine. I'm going to squeeze my butt just to open up those hips completely. And from here, I'm going to dip knees out, nice and straight. And I'm going to push my butt back, maintain that neutral spine, put tension in the hamstrings, and get just below the knee. Alright? Notice that my knees are just behind the shoulders. My shoulders are just in front of the weight. And the weight is heel heavy. Alright? From here, I'm going to stand up, explode up, hit the hip forward, shrug up, elbows going to go down and back. Elbows going to come up, and then I'm going to pull myself under the dumbbells and clean it. All right. So here it is at full speed. So that's a power clean. What that means is if you catch the dumbbell above parallel, you're in power position. I like doing power cleans with dumbbells. Squat cleans suck, but they're also great. So here's a squat clean. If you feel comfortable with the power clean, then you can go on to squat cleans, which means you're going to be receiving the dumbbell in a lower position, squatting all the way down. Alright, so that's a clean. You do that as part of a Metcon or an AMRAP or a workout, what kind of work you want to do, it'll gas you pretty good. Alright? The clean and jerk is a combination of the push jerk and the clean. Okay, so you're just putting those together. So here's the full clean and jerk. Alright, and we can do that for the hang position, which we're going to cover next. So, the hang power clean, or the hang clean, basically means I'm going to do it from a position just above my knee. Alright, you can hang below the knee, but usually means just above your knee. A high hang would be here, a hang would be here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to dip back, put my butt back, chest up, and I'm going to clean from just above my knee here. So for a full clean, and for a power clean, notice that my feet start in a neutral position and they get out into a power position. So if you watched our cleaning and power cleaning videos, you'll notice that we do a lot of hip drills where we dip, come up, and drop. So our hip comes from here to here and back. Okay? Fast hip action is where you're going to get the power and speed in Olympic weightlifting. The nice thing is, if you have an athlete, you start off on dumbbells with Olympic weightlifting, that transfers over very well if they choose to do any kind of weightlifting, and go to the barbell. All right. The next part I'm going to cover is the snatch. Now the snatch is a pretty difficult movement, especially the full snatch. One of my favorites. But with dumbbells, it's way easier. Okay. The reason it's so hard with the bars is you have to have a big bar path, our knees get in the way, and there's a lot of technique involved. Got to make contact with the hips, so on and so forth. With the dumbbell, if you keep your arms straight and you generate enough power, you can get overhead. You can lift some pretty heavy dumbbells with a power snatch. All right. I think the guys at the games are using 100-pound dumbbells on one arm snatches. So here's a full power snatch. So the setup, I want to get my hips, my hamstrings engaged, my arm is straight, I'm going to stand up, and explode, shrug up my toes, and once the barbell becomes light from the power generated by my core, I'm going to pull myself down, elbow up and back, keeping the dumbbell as close to the body as possible, and catching it overhead, alright? With a nice neutral spine, stay nice and solid. So here it is. And then alternating snatch, you alternate arms. Alright? And you can go back and forth, alternate, or you can do one arm over and over again. That's a power snatch. The hang power snatch, if you're going to use one arm over and over again, instead of nice and straight, dumbbells here, just above the knees, chest is up, neutral spine, and snatch it up. Now when you're doing repetitive movements with dumbbells, whether medium, light, or heavy, really got to focus on being aware of your body, because when you get tired, you start snatching, and it'll pull you down and find yourself in this position, which is a compromised position we don't want to be in. So always neutral spine, always bracing our core. Alright? That's the power snatch, the clean, the jerk, the hang, power snatch, the hang, clean, and all that good stuff. So you have a lot on your plate already. Go have some fun. Next thing you need to have is a solid training program. That's number 2. Now the program arguably is really important, or not that important at all. I think it's somewhere in between. Now these aren't in any kind of order. They're kind of just what kind of came to my head when I was planning this podcast, and I jotted them down on paper. So one is not better than the other. I think strength is really, really important, but I don't think that any of the other ones are better than the other. They're all pretty equally important, and they should be all considered when trying to get good. So solid strength program, you need to have a balance between skill, strength, and conditioning. One problem that we see is when people try to get strong, they ignore the conditioning, because it's very, very easy to ignore conditioning. When you want to get strong, you're lifting weights all the time, you're getting pretty jacked, and then moving your ass during a Metcon feeling like breathing heavy is not a good feeling at all for bigger guys who are not working on their conditioning as much. So don't miss out that conditioning. A second part of it is skill implementation. So you want to implement skills within your programming that you're chipping away at those weaknesses over time. All right, so you have a good balance between strength, between skill, and conditioning. Now the problem with this is, if you're trying to get good at CrossFit fairly quickly, and what I mean by quickly, I mean within a year, then you better have some kind of pretty decent athletic background. If you don't have any athletic background and you're trying to get good at CrossFit, you're going to get real good in a year if you work out for a bit longer. Your workouts don't have to be intense, and they don't have to be like crazy hard workouts. They don't have to be, you don't have to be busting out Fran every day. But what you got to do is you need to set aside some extra time to hit up those strength training, hit up some extra time to hit up the skill sessions, and some time for the conditioning, which is very, very important. Okay, a good program will also have, a good program will also have, it'll be periodized. I think that for most new people, they come to CrossFit, they'll get pretty good real quick, and then if you start plateauing a little bit, you need to be on a program that's a bit more periodized, which means it's going to get you progressively better at one thing, and then it'll maintain that one thing and get you progressively better at another thing, and then maintain that other thing. So what that means is, if you're trying to go to like the games, or if you're trying to compete locally and you know when a competition's coming, work a lot on your strength, work a lot on your skill, work a lot on progressions with a tiny bit of conditioning in between. And as the date of competition approaches, focus a lot on conditioning, and that way your conditioning, you can always get conditioning within like 2 months or 3 months of training real hard on conditioning. And still maintain some strength that you've acquired over the time, but strength takes more to acquire and develop. So if you can periodize your training, then you're just going to be able to progress so much better. So you probably heard this before. Training harder isn't always best, but training smarter is, especially when you get older. And by old I mean 30. When you get to 30, I never thought I'd say this because I'm 31 right now, but your recovery is not what it used to be in your 20s. So you need to work a little smarter and recover better. Okay. The next one, recovery. So we've hit this overhead a million times in the podcast, but we want to recover as best we can. So we want to recover with sleep. We want to recover with nutrition. We want to recover with our mobility stuff, but also our stability work. So if you haven't done any stability work, if you're not as proficient in the squat, or you're not as proficient in the overhead lifts, you should do some kind of stability work. And we have a couple of videos on YouTube on shoulder stability, and we're going to be putting more up. You can find a ton of stuff online, I guess. But you should be doing some kind of stability work in your weaknesses, because if you don't, chances are you're going to get hurt. If you're going to get hurt, it's gonna derail you from that success. Okay. So definitely implement some stability work. I'm not really going to talk about recovery all that much. I'll do a podcast next on kind of recovery tools that you can use. That's a big topic, and that's something that's kind of cool and fun to talk about. So we'll do one of those later on. And number 4. Okay, so number 4 is practice movements. Practice the movements you suck at over and over and over again. And what I mean by practice movements isn't like, if you can't do pull-ups and you're not very good at pull-ups, don't keep on doing pull-ups to get better at pull-ups. You need to figure out what you're lacking in terms of like your strength and stability, even mobility, and then kind of rectify that issue to get better at doing pull-ups. So, in a very short while, we'll be coming up with a program on, getting your first pull-up or getting just more proficient at pull-ups. Whether you're like kipping and butterflying and doing muscle-ups, or whether you're not even able to do one pull-up, this program's going to be freaking awesome. And I got this idea from Zach Evanesh, from one of his little blogs. He was talking about the grease the wheel approach, and just kind of getting out there cold and doing certain movements in order to prepare you for real life and that movement. I really like that approach, and he was using it for the deadlift in his thing. And I put together a program for the pull-up that focuses a lot on horizontal rows, and it focuses a lot on stability work, on scapular retraction, It focuses a lot on the pulls. And believe it or not, for 2 weeks, you're not really doing any pull-ups. You're working your body to be prepared for doing pull-ups. And then, you test at the end of the 2-week process. It's a very short program. And you want to keep it short because you don't want to overexhaust yourself with the amount of work you're doing. And this is not a program that you would do as like, hey, this is my workout for the day. It's very, very short. It's got 2 movements every single session. It's 3 times per day, and it's got 2 movements that are very, very simple and very, very easy. There's a lot of mobility work and stuff like that in there as well. So it's a pretty exciting thing that I came up with, and I'm excited to see how it goes. I'm going to implement it at N6 and see how that works out as well. But I think it's going to do really good things. So when you're practicing a skill, don't necessarily practice that skill over and over again. Yeah, you can use progressions, but practice things that is limiting you from performing that particular movement. Okay, if that makes any sense. All right, number 5, winding down here, get a coach. So if you don't have a coach, or you're at a CrossFit gym and you're working out and you're getting coached there, and you feel like you're kind of ahead of the class and you feel like you need to have a little bit extra attention, 2 options. Option number 1, get personal training from your CrossFit coach. Option number 2, find a coach that's a correspondence coach, like an online coach or a close by coach or whatever, that can work with you one-on-one. A lot of people do this. I have a coach myself. He's a correspondence coach, and everyone needs a coach. I don't give a shit who you are. My coach has a coach, okay? And my coach's coach has a coach, and I know this. So everyone needs to be coached, because when you write for yourself and you program for yourself, you can, but you'll get to those days where you're just gonna get there and be like, what the hell was I thinking? I'm just stupid. And you start second guessing yourself as a coach and as a person, and you don't listen to yourself. So get a coach, get a good coach, and they'll hopefully, if they're a good coach, they will address these issues. Okay. If you want me to coach you, hit me up, snatchesandscotch@gmail.com. Like that plug. But I mean, you need to get somebody to coach you, okay? Whether it's your box coach or some other coach, all right? Because if you want to get good, just doing regular CrossFit classes is going to get you fit, but it's not going to get you very proficient at CrossFit in a short amount of time. It'll get you good at CrossFit, but it won't get you as proficient at CrossFit as having a coach and having a decent program, hitting all your weaknesses and writing to make you a better, safer, healthier, more explosive athlete. And then the final thing that I have here is, and we've mentioned this before, is mindset. So you definitely need to have a killer mindset if you want to get good at anything. Okay. The biggest thing is confidence. How do you get confident when you suck at everything? My opinion is celebrate the small stuff. All right. So celebrate every single little PR. If you're just starting CrossFit, you're going to PR everything all the time. You're going to be on cloud 9. You're going to love it. Once you're into CrossFit a little bit more, for a little bit longer, you're going to stop PRing. So today I did like a heavy thruster, got a 15-pound PR, got a 255 squat clean thruster, and I got a 330 clean today, which is pretty sweet. My all-time best is 325, and I haven't been working on my clean for at least 6 to 8 months. Like, I really haven't been seriously working on cleaning at all, because it was something that I was kind of good at. So I stopped working on it, and I've been trying to get to 325, my old PR, or beyond it, and I just couldn't do it. And today I tried it. I missed it twice. I was pretty pissed off. And I've never hit 330. It's not even a huge number. It's just, big for me. And I calmed myself down. I didn't overthink it. The first thing that came to my mind is when I picked that bar up, I was like, holy shit, this is heavy. So I was defeated before I started. So if you can be confident in yourself and just say, you know what, I'm going to own this weight, and approach the bar with confidence, and believe that your training got you where you need to be, then you're going to catch that weight. So on the third attempt, I caught that weight a little bit better, and I was able to send it up no problem. It was not even an issue getting that up. I probably could have gotten more, but I took my PR and then I went home. I was happy with it. So, think about like a basketball player. I grew up playing basketball. Think of it as not being the practice player, okay? In CrossFit, whether you're competing or training, you're always on. It's not like a skill sport like basketball or volleyball where you got to be conditioned good and have skills, where you're going to be an awesome player in practice and then you're going to shit the bed in a game, where like you're hitting threes and you're just, you're handling the ball well and you're doing all these things, to a T, and then at the game you kind of disappear and you don't do anything of worth. In CrossFit, you got to treat every single training session as game time, because at the end of the day, if you're not competing against yourself and you're not trying to do better than what you think you can do, and you're not surprising yourself, you're not pushing yourself, then you're competing against other people, and that's definitely a recipe for failure. If you compare yourself against other people and try to be at their level and try to compete against them because like, I want to beat so-and-so and I want to lift more than so-and-so and I want to have a better frame time than so-and-so, then you're always going to fail, because there's always going to be somebody better than you at a particular skill. Not even Rich Froning is good at everything. He's consistent at everything, but he is not the best at everything. He showed it in the games this year, but he's good enough to be the best. Okay, so celebrate the small victories, fight against yourself, compete against yourself, and be confident in the hard work that you put forth. If you're working hard and you're hitting training sessions and you're doing everything you can do, you should be happy in your performance. If you go to competition and you come in 5th place and you've busted your ass and you've trained hard to get there, you should be happy as hell to be in 5th place, because that's where you belong, because you're competing against yourself. All right? So those are the 6 things: strength, solid training program, good recovery, practicing the movements you suck at, getting a good coach, and finally, being confident in yourself and your abilities and your training. All right? Most of it is a huge mind game, so don't let that mind game mess you up. All right? If you like the podcast, go to iTunes, give us a 5-star review, and check out Snatches and Scotch on YouTube for the video version. I'm all alone, so I get to stare at my ugly mug all the whole time. We are going to travel around Ontario and have a bunch of really awesome people coming up in the next couple episodes. So this Saturday we're going up, secret place, and I'm gonna have an awesome athlete, super inspirational, cool dude. And then at the end of the month, we're gonna be traveling to Montreal, talking to some pretty badass coaches, coaching some crazy athletes. All right, so stay tuned, and we'll see you next week. Peace out.